guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Judah from Enzolo Strength, and today I'm going to be covering 5 reasons why your bench press sucks. So the bench press is obviously one of the fundamental strength exercises. It's one of the big 3, but it is one that I see people doing consistently wrong again and again and again. And so these tips are really going to help you to level up your bench press and also to make sure that you're training properly so you can actually see progress, and so you're not stagnating when you go into the gym and you're trying to get your bench press up to 2 plates, 3 plates, etc. Alright, so number 1 that I've just written here is incorrect technique. And there are a lot of reasons why your technique may be incorrect, and the ones I see most frequently are A, you're bouncing the bar off your chest aggressively at the bottom when you should be pausing or really controlling that descent and that pause at the bottom of the bench press. That's going to get you way stronger long term than using the bounce to bounce the weight back up off your chest. That's not really going to get you stronger. That's just using momentum and the structure of your body to help you with the lift. You really want to pause at the bottom and create as much force as possible for the bench press, especially if you're going to compete in something like powerlifting where you need to pause at the very bottom. You will get a no lift if you just lower it down and bounce it off your chest. You need to pause completely in the bottom of that lift and then push it off. Secondly, it's not packing the shoulders back and getting your chest up and engaging your lats. We just see people rounding forward, so they're here and they're pressing this way when they should up, shoulders back, pack tight, and that's going to give you way more lat engagement, way more stability, and therefore a lot more strength when it comes to the actual press. And the last technique piece is just the leg drive. So it's people not actually knowing to use their glutes and their legs to help push that weight up from the bottom position. Doesn't mean your butt is lifting way off the bench, it just means that you're pushing out and you're using your entire body, right? The bench press is actually a full body exercise. It's not just a chest exercise. You're using your chest, your triceps, your shoulders, your lats, your glutes, your quads. Everything is working in conjunction to move the heaviest weight possible in the bench press. It is a huge piece if you're looking to increase your 1 rep max on bench press. All right, so you've got perfect technique. So what's number 2? Number 2 is going to be weak lats and weak triceps. These are kind of 2 of the classic lagging areas. Generally speaking, it's not going to be a weakness of the pectoral, but it's actually going to be a weakness of your tricep or a weakness of your lat to stabilize the movement. That's going to be one of the linchpins in getting a bigger bench press. So a lot of people think, oh, I just need to train my chest more. I just need to train more chest accessory exercises. It's like, no, you don't. What you need to do is you actually need to work your triceps more. You need to work your lats more to create more stability for the bench press, and training your triceps more so you can get that bar moving a lot better during the actual execution of the bench press. So some of those supplemental or accessory lifts that you could be doing are a pause dumbbell row, and make sure you're doing it with a very slow eccentric. So we're squeezing and we're doing a slow eccentric on the way back down. You're not just letting it drop, you're controlling that eccentric. Same with a barbell bent over row, right? Work your lats, control the eccentric, even pull-ups, any sort of lat pull-down variation. All of those are going to be fantastic back exercises to throw into your routine. Just make sure that you're focusing on a big squeeze at the bottom, so you're isometrically holding at the top or the bottom of those movements, and you are controlling the eccentric. I always try to go for at least a 3 to a 5 second eccentric. That's going to build a lot more strength and a lot more control of your scapula or your shoulder blades that you're going to need for the bench press. For your triceps, you could do something like a JM press. You could also do a rolling dumbbell tricep extension. You know, I've even done rope tricep extensions or tricep pushdowns in the past. But when we were talking about specificity for the bench press, I really like the rolling dumbbell tricep extensions. I also really like the JM press. Please don't do any sort of kickback. That's not going to really give you anything. I hate when I see people doing this in the gym. It's not going to get you anywhere when it comes to tricep strength, especially in specificity to the bench press. And then other than that, would also just be working on things like block presses or mid-spoto presses, which are going to be specific to you and your area where you tend to slow down in the bench press, or the sticking point is what we like to call it. So there will be that point where you finish, or you get to a point where you can't really push as fast and you start slowing down. That's a sticking point. Those are what you want to work when we're talking about like your block press or your mid-spoto press. or any sort of isometric work, overcoming isometrics, right? Those are all things where we're working on those specific areas where we personally struggle. All right, so we've addressed the technique, we've addressed some of the lagging body parts, some of the lagging muscle groups, your weak points. Next is actually going to be number 3, which is fatigue management. And when I'm talking about fatigue management, it's how well are we recovering from our workouts, and are we actually giving ourselves the space to recover from our accumulation phase of training. And for those of you that don't know what an accumulation and a deload phase are, an accumulation phase is just multiple weeks where we are stacking and getting heavier and heavier and heavier and pushing ourselves harder and harder and harder over the course of 3 to 4 weeks usually. And then a deload is when we cut that down, we're cutting down volume, we're cutting down intensity to allow our body to fully recover before we go into our next accumulation phase. What most people will do though is they'll just keep going to the gym and doing the same amount of sets, the same amount of reps, the same weights, and then they're not really pushing themselves, they're not really advancing themselves through an accumulation phase. Also, they're not deloading, meaning they just get to a point where they're consistently pushing harder, 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 and they just start to fry themselves out. They don't actually fully recover, and they wonder why they can't keep getting better and can't keep progressing. It's because your body is not a machine. I tell this to my guys all the time. Your body is not a machine, you're a human being, you need to rest. And on top of fatigue management with your training, you also need to be sleeping properly, you need to be focusing on good quality nutrition, and you also need to be managing your stress levels, because those will definitely affect how well you can lift weight in the gym. So let me just give you a quick example of an accumulation phase and a deload. So say in week 1 for bench press, you're doing 80% for 5 reps, and you're doing about maybe 3 or 4 sets of 5 reps at 80% of your 1 rep max. The next week you come in, you're doing sets of 3, maybe at 85% of your 1 rep max. Or for those of you that are doing RPE, maybe it's an 8.5 RPE, maybe you're leaving 1 to 2 reps in reserve. There's a bunch of different systems you can follow, but I'm just gonna use percentages for right now. Week 3, you're coming into the gym, you're doing sets of 2 for around maybe 87.5 to 90% of your 1 rep max. And you're doing 3 or 4 sets of 2, right? That would be an accumulation phase. You went from 80% to 85 to 90. We kind of dropped the reps down, so the total volume's a little bit lower overall week over week. But by the time we're hitting 90%, it's gonna be pretty heavy, and our body's gonna be feeling that, our central nervous system's gonna be feeling that. So the next week, the 4th week, is going to be a deload phase where we basically cut everything down on the compounds to around 50 to 55% of our 1 rep max. And then everything on the accessories, so say you're doing like a row or a tricep exercise, you could maybe go between 60 and 70% of what you were doing in that 3rd week, and then just lower the volume. So maybe you're only doing 1 to 2 sets, where maybe before you're doing 3 or 4. So total volume is lower in a deload week, and total weight is lower in a deload week. Okay, so you've got perfect technique, you're working on your weak points, you are managing your fatigue. So what's number 4? So number 4 is frequency. So how often are you actually benching or doing bench adjacent work? Meaning, are you just bench pressing once a week? Are you doing a bench press once a week plus a bench press supplemental once a week? I've done programs where I benched on Monday. I did a bench press adjacent movement like a block press or an overcoming isometric or a mid-spoto press on the Wednesday, and then on the Friday or the Saturday, I would do some sort of a chest exercise, maybe like a floor press or a dumbbell press or an incline dumbbell press, something that is similar to that movement pattern that's going to help me get a little bit more frequency with the actual pattern, right? If you guys are just benching once a week, and then you also have issues with weak lats and triceps, you also have issues with technique, you also have issues with you just keep trying to max out and you're not managing your fatigue, like it's not really that surprising that your bench press sucks and that it's not going up, because all of these factors are compounding. So my biggest suggestion for you, if you are trying to increase your bench press and you're only benching once a week, is maybe throw in a supplemental movement later in the week that's going to be very similar. So that could be like a mid-spoto press or a block press. Make sure you're really hitting those tricep and lats once to twice a week as well. That's going to really help in the long term to get you stronger, get you more stable for benching bigger weight. And then, like I said before, number 3, fatigue management. Make sure that every 4th or 5th week you're actually doing a deload, letting your body fully recover so that you can come into that new week fresh and ready to lift heavy. Now I know what you're saying. You're like, Judah, you've already gone through so much stuff. What could possibly be left? What's number 5? Well, let me get to it. So number 5, you're not training hard enough. Straight up, plain and simple. I see this all the time with guys. You know, maybe get yourself a training partner, maybe get yourself a personal trainer or a coach. People don't push themselves hard enough. They think they know what hard work is, but they don't actually know until they've been pushed past their perceived limits. And once again, this kind of comes back to the fatigue management part and the incorrect technique part. If you don't have somebody kind of showing you or telling you that you're not working hard enough or that you're doing something wrong, it's very easy to just go into the gym, do the weights that you've always done, and not see progress. Because to you, you're like, oh, that was hard. That was a lot of effort that I put in. I think I did a really good job on that. When you actually had a lot more gas in the tank. So an easy way to do that in the beginning is like if you've just been doing the same sets of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 or 12 at the same weight forever, just add more weight and just see how many reps you can do. Doesn't matter if you get to the number that you want or not, just add more weight and see what you can do. You should be, if you're trying to get stronger, playing within that 3 to 5 rep range and then eventually getting down into doubles and singles. But in the beginning, play around with 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s even are okay. You know, upwards to 8, but then if you're getting up to 8s, it's more, you know, hypertrophy training. Obviously, you'll still get stronger, but strength specific, anywhere between that 3 to 5 rep range in the beginning, and then as you start to get even stronger, dropping down into doubles and singles is always a good idea. But most people have never played around in those rep ranges. When I talk to them and say, hey, you know, your bench press isn't going up, what are your rep schemes like? And they're like, oh, I'm doing this many sets of 8 and this many sets of 5. And I'm like, how many doubles have you done? How many triples have you done? How many singles have you done? And they're like, oh, well, I'll do like all these sets of 8 and then I'll just try to max out on one. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You got to go through the accumulation phase. You got to go through the deload. Play around between 80 and 90%. There's no reason for a lot of you guys to be going up to 100% and maxing out. A lot of professional strength athletes don't even do that all the time. Maxing out should be saved for, you know, maybe a couple times a year, maybe for an event, but most of the time they're playing around in that 80 to 95% range for their actual strength training because it works well and they can recover. So there you have it, guys. That is my top 5 list for the reasons that your bench press sucks right now. I hope it was really useful to you. I hope you guys take this, learn from it, apply it to your own training. If you have questions, please feel free to list them below in the comments. I love to answer as many questions as possible. And if you enjoyed the video, remember to subscribe to the channel because I am going to be releasing a lot more videos just like this one. If you like the video, like the video. Once again, this is Coach Judah from Zolo Strength, because you can't go wrong when you train to be strong. Peace.